Hey gang, I wanted to get on here real quick and talk about the argument for Donald Trump piece by piece and try and dismantle that. This is going to be a long video, but I hope that you'll find it to be worth it, and I hope that you'll share it with people who are still inexplicably supporting this guy. Let's start with the border, because that's a very important issue for a lot of Trump supporters. In the last full year of Donald Trump's presidency, 2019, 983,000 people crossed the border illegally. That's almost a million. Okay. This is the guy that you think is going to be strict on the border, that's going to fix the border, that's going to build the wall, blah, 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 blah. A million people crossed in his last year as president. So why did he let that happen? If he's going to fix it and it's fixed and all that, and he's going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. I can make a million points about this, but the second one is we had a bipartisan border bill authored in large part by a very conservative Republican from Oklahoma, and it had bipartisan support. President Biden was ready to sign this thing, and it was endorsed by the Border Patrol Union, okay? Nobody knows better what these guys need than themselves. And they said, this is good for us. This helps us. We want this. Please vote for it. Donald Trump told Republicans to vote it down because he said, if you fix it, I can't run on it. And I need to run on it. Don't fix it. Let's wait till I get in there. So he cares so much about this issue that he would let the border, remain porous for another year and a half, even though he thinks he's the guy that's tough on the border. Let's go from there to talk about fiscal conservatism, because I know a lot of people say, well, I'm socially liberal, but I'm fiscally conservative. Well, it sounds to me like you're a Democrat, because Republicans are not fiscally conservative. It's a myth, and it's a stupid one, and I'm not sure why it's still being perpetuated or why anybody still believes it. This is just a quick rundown of economic history. Bill Clinton left George W. Bush a $100 billion surplus. George W. Bush turned that into a $1.1 trillion deficit in his 8 years in office. Obama inherited a nightmare economy from Bush, who oversaw a big recession, of course, 9/11, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't matter what causes your bad economy in your presidency. You don't get like a free pass if something bad happens. The economy was a wreck. Obama inherited a terrible economy, and instead of people recognizing that he inherited it, he got blamed for it, which is hilarious because none of it happened under him. But then he oversaw the biggest period of job creation in the last 100 years until now. The economy was completely turned around. Things were much, much better. By the time Trump came into office, he was riding an incredible economy, much like George W. Bush was from Clinton. Trump tanked that. Obama had implemented and achieved a lot of deficit reduction. Trump blew the deficits back up. He instituted a lot of harmful trade policies that hurt farmers. He did a lot of crazy things, including taking money from China, getting Chinese trademarks for his daughter. His son-in-law took $2 billion from the Saudis. They're not even trying to hide it. He failed to follow the emoluments clause. He kept running all these businesses while being president, which that alone should have disqualified him. But during his presidency, he added $8 trillion to the deficit. That's more in 4 years than anyone else ever has in 8. It's a big deal, okay? So that's the economy. What are the other issues? Trans people, transgenderism, and I know this is just bigotry, so there's maybe nothing I can say that'll make you give a shit, but here's just an example, and I don't remember her name, unfortunately, I apologize, but the female boxer that we saw in the Olympics, and all these MAGA people were like, there shouldn't be a man boxing a woman, and we all learned that's a woman. That person is a biological woman, born a woman, lived her life as a woman. She just happens to hormonally be big and strong and look masculine, because hormones are a spectrum. Some people are born looking, and more importantly, feeling masculine. And some people are born looking and feeling more feminine. We've all met them. We've all met a little kid that you're like, that kid's probably going to be, you can just kind of tell. And there is a science to it. The younger a male child is, the less testosterone and other necessary hormones are pervade from the mother, well, from both parents, I guess, but from the mother. Like a third-born son naturally has lower testosterone levels than a first-born son. It's just a fact. And if you look through patterns, those people are more likely to be gay later in life, which doesn't necessarily have anything to do with trans people, but it's just going to happen. It's always happened. People have, this has been a thing that's existed for a long time. It's weird that y'all just found out about it and you're furious. Children are going to school to learn how to read and getting their bodies riddled with bullets from machine guns. Imagine sending your kids to school and they never come home. And it's happening not once or twice, it's happening monthly around the United States for years. And Republican leaders have done nothing about it. Donald Trump's idea is to arm teachers. In Uvalde, there was one gunman, killed 19 people, most of them children. While it was happening, there were 300, look at me, there were 367 good guys with guns who did fucking nothing for over an hour while this guy murdered these children. This isn't a problem that's fixed with guns, and it's certainly not a problem that's fixed by you being mean to trans teenagers. Someone is a boy and they feel like a girl, and they always have, and maybe they always will, and they just want to live life as a girl. Who fucking cares? That's not going to make your kid gay unless your kid's already gay. It's not going to make your kid trans unless your kid's already trans. You don't read the word trans in a book and become trans. You don't have a teacher or an educator tell your child, hey, you should be nice to people that are different than you, and then they automatically turn gay. That's not how life works. Children are being murdered by machine guns, and half the country is out here yelling about books and drag queens. It's completely insane. What are the other issues? Immigration, the economy, inflation. Let's just talk about inflation. It's kind of part of the fiscal conservatism thing. Everybody on the right is blaming Joe Biden for inflation. This is not American inflation, and even if it were, it wouldn't be the fault of one person. This is global inflation. This is happening around the world. It's not one person's fault. And if you do want to blame one person, consider blaming the person that mailed everybody in America a check. Inflation happens basically when too much money is injected into the economy. There's just a surplus of everything, and people are buying shit, and some people go, oh, things are good, let's raise the prices. I mean, it's more complex than that, but it's kind of the gist of it. He mailed everybody in the country a check, and he's the only president in history who insisted on putting his name on the check. Every other president that's mailed people stimulus money, it's just from the U.S. government. This guy insisted, you got to put my name on it. You got to put Donald J. Trump on it, and the J's for Jesus. It's insanity. Then he added $8 trillion to the deficit in 4 years. That's more than any other president ever has in 8. Do you think that might have contributed to inflation? Come on. If you're going to blame one person or even 10 people, maybe consider the guy that added more to our debt than any president ever has in 4 years, not 8. You don't think that's a possible factor in inflation? And a lot of this inflation that you're screaming about, it's not inflation, it's price gouging. These mega companies, these faceless trillion-dollar companies, heard the word inflation enough times and they thought, we can get away with raising prices. And that's what they've done. They're price gouging you. They're making bigger profits than they ever have ever in history while price gouging you, while you struggle to get by and buy groceries for your family. They're price gouging you. One of these candidates wants to regulate that and tax them. The other one wants to do nothing to regulate it and wants to cut their taxes or eliminate them altogether. And we know he'll do it because he's done it before. Tax breaks for billionaires. I support tax breaks for working people. We don't need to give tax breaks to people that live in castles and own fucking jets and yachts. Last thing, let's just talk about this family values guy. This guy has 3 marriages. Trump, he's selling a Bible with Lee Greenwood, who has 6. 2 guys with 9 marriages between them are selling you a Bible. Donald Trump has shown through interview after interview that he can't quote a single Bible verse. He hasn't read the Bible. And I personally don't give a shit if he has or not. But stop pretending to be a Christian. You've never opened it. He said in an interview he's never asked God for forgiveness for anything, and he doesn't like the idea of that. The one time he tried to quote a Bible verse, he said it wrong, and everybody knew it, and we all laughed at him because he's a simpleton idiot. This guy's as much of a Christian as I am a ballerina, and I don't dance, okay? He's not. 2 guys with 9 marriages selling you a Bible, a God Bless the USA Bible that they printed in China. He's trying to sell you $100,000 watches, hats, shirts, flags, stickers. He's trying to sell you shiny gold sneakers for $300 that nobody's gotten in the mail yet. When you order this shit, it says, please allow 4 to 6 weeks for shipping, not responsible for shipping issues. This is a grift. You send the money, you never get shit. He's selling NFT trading cards of him looking muscular like a superhero and a fireman and all these other things he's never done. If you're a hard-working American with dirty boots and a blue collar, this is a guy who's never held a hammer. I know because I've held a hammer. I've worked my ass off my entire life. This dude doesn't know how to work a drill, I promise you. He's never worked. The hardest thing he's ever done is swing a golf club. He couldn't change a spare tire if his life depended on it, and God, I wish it did. He's a pussy, okay? And if you think you're a tough guy and you're worshiping this guy that's a pussy, that's pitiful to me. It's truly pitiful. And furthermore, the guy from the party of family values, you think this guy's going to save the children? He was Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. It's not a theory, it's real. You can find pictures of them together on Google search for years, not 1 or 2 pictures from the same day, years of them hanging out. He was in Jeffrey Epstein's flight log 7 times. He's all over the Jeffrey Epstein files. He knew these people well. They hung out all the time. He's been accused of sexual misconduct by 26 different women. He's on camera bragging about, on recording, bragging about grabbing them by the pussy. Grabbing a woman without her permission by the pussy, which is weird, gross, and awkward in the first place. He's on camera bragging about sneaking into the dressing rooms of pageant contestants, young women, underage women, to see them naked without anyone's permission or consent. He's on record multiple times talking about how sexy his daughter is and calling her voluptuous and hot. And if she wasn't his daughter, he'd be dating her. There was a recording of him going up an Escalade and the little girl coming down it, and she's like 10. And he points and tells the camera, I'll be dating her in 10 years. This guy's a predator. He's not a Christian. He's not a patriot. And that brings me to the last point. Patriot? You think this dude's a patriot? The guy he hired in his 2016 campaign to be his head campaign guy, Paul Manafort. At the time that Trump hired him, Paul Manafort owed $60 million to Oleg Deripaska. Perhaps one of the most sinister Russian oligarchs that exists. This guy's an international criminal. He's a friend of Putin, a close friend and associate of Putin. Paul Manafort owed him $60 million, and he came and he sought out Donald Trump. He called his associates and he said, I need to go work for Donald Trump. And then he went to work for Donald Trump for free. Why would a guy $60 million in debt work for a presidential candidate for free? And you're thinking, well, none of that's proven. Sure it is. Paul Manafort went to jail. The only reason he's not still in jail is because Donald Trump pardoned him. One of the things, there's too many charges that for me to even list. One of the charges he went to jail for was failure to register as a foreign agent, because he's a fucking Russian operative. It's black and white, cut and dry. It's not complicated. It's not nuanced. The job that he had right before going to work for Donald Trump was being the campaign lead for a guy named Viktor Yanukovych, who became the president of Ukraine. Paul Manafort was his campaign lead. He became the president of Ukraine, and the Ukrainian people ran him out of office for being a Russian operative. He killed 100 Ukrainians, and then he fled to, guess where? Russia. These aren't coincidences. Donald Trump has done business with the Russians since the 80s. They have bailed his failing ass out of many projects. They have bought his condos for more than they were worth, and Donald Trump has laundered money for them. He's long been suspected of laundering money for them. This is information that's not hard to find. You have a supercomputer in your pocket. Love your country enough to do the research. Don't vote for a guy that I know more about than you do. You love the guy? I know more about him than you do. Why is that? Why is that? Learn. If you say you love your country enough to learn some real facts. It's the prosecutor or the felon. And you could talk all the shit you want to about this woman, but she was a prosecutor, an attorney general, a senator, and then a vice president. She's not facing any criminal charges. She has no ties to Russia. She's not a rapist. She's not selling sneakers. She's a serious, normal, intelligent, capable person. Love your country enough to not do this. That's all I'm asking. If you want to vote for MAGA QAnon cult members up and down the ticket who want to put Bibles in the kids' book bags and pray in school and make it illegal to say you're gay, don't vote for Trump, for Christ's sake, please.